Hello and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. As a reminder, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, you can send questions and comments to the Facebook live stream. Good evening to Facebook and to the YouTube chats running alongside this video. So good evening to all the YouTubers, and we appreciate your super chats. My name is John Ruark. I'm a past master of the Patriot Lodge number 1957 in Fairfax, Virginia, and I actually went to Lodge just this past week. So I was very, very excited to get back home. Who do we have next? We have Juan Sepulveda. Good evening, Juan, from sunny Kissimmee, Florida.
Good evening, John. Here, Juan Sepulveda from Orange Blossom Lodge, number 80, where I serve as the lodge historian. And I am the brother behind The Winding Stairs, wherever your podcasters can catch it. Good evening, everyone.
Okay,
Who's
Robert
gonna
Johnson.
introduce that guy?
That guy. We'll do.
Yeah.
We'll do. The bearded Robert Johnson. Good evening.
Oh, good evening. And I took Jason's beard.
he just pulled it down.
Yeah,
brought
I
it
took it off and then I put it on myself, and it was a whole cool thing. Anyway, Robert Johnson, Secretary of Spes Novum Lodge, 1183, and
What?
host of Wednesday Emu. Thanks.
Awesome. And the beardless Jason Richards. Good evening. Oh, Jason had to bail and come back. He'll be back. He sits perfectly still, and he's having tech issues at the same time. So, anyway, tonight's topic, before we get into that, I want to give a special shout out to the patrons who support the show. You guys are awesome, and you've helped us continue pressing forward. So, thanks again for everything you do. This week, we're going to talk about official visits. If you don't know what official visits are, don't worry. You're going to get lots of education on that tonight. But while I was at Lodge this past Friday, there actually was the official visit of the Grand Master of Masons in Virginia there. And so we'll talk a little bit about what happened there, who was recognized, who wasn't, why, what the ins and outs are, and also how it's not just limited to Grand Masters. And so, wanted to open it up to the rest of y'all, which right now includes Juan and RJ. When was the last official visit in any capacity that you have attended?
I would say, is it me?
Sure, you. Go.
Yeah. All right. I can't tell which way you were going with that. For me, my OV was 3 months ago. We had our official visit
Of?
Spes Novum, 1183, and we were at the point UD, but we still had to have an official visit. And then we had kind of a secondary official visit because as a lodge that's getting a charter, we have to prove that we can do the work in-house. So we had kind of an official visit with our DDGM, Todd Marquith, great guy who came out and watched us do the best third degree that anybody's ever seen ever in the history of Masonry. So,
Or at least in the history of Spes Novum. So.
nope.
Okay. How about you, Juan? When was the last official visit you've attended?
I couldn't find my screen. Well, we had, I want to say last month was the official District Deputy Grandmaster's visit. And I think I missed that visit. But I have the good fortune that anytime it's either too hot or rains and I feel like, you know what, today I don't feel like really dressing up. Normally I go on a suit and tie to Lodge. And whenever I make the decision, I say, you know what? I'm going to go with just a button-down shirt and some slacks, or the district deputy grand master shows up. So I don't know if he is summoned by my casual attire, or if I feel that he's coming, so I then downgrade my attire.
You want to make sure that it doesn't rain? You carry an umbrella, right? Same thing. You want to make sure you get an official visit to show up? Just, you know what? I'm not going to dress up tonight for lodge. Boom.
I'm gonna go comfortable. It's happened, and I'm serious. It's happened 3 times that I've decided consciously, you know what? I don't feel like dressing up today. And I go casual, and the district deputy guard master is there. So fortunately, he is a honorary member of our lodge, and we've known each other for many years, so he knows me.
So
I'm not making first impressions.
So there's really no excuse.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. So, Jason, the question is, when was the last official visit of any capacity that you've been to?
All right. Can you all still hear me? Because my camera froze.
Your camera just died again. Love it.
Okay. So I'm going to stay on and just use the mic. So, John, feel free to hide me on the screen. So the last official visit I attended was earlier this year. It was a district deputy grand master official visit to my mother lodge, Acacia Lodge. So it's interesting because, you know, back in 2017 when I was master, in our district we have 7 lodges, and we tend to follow the district deputy grand master around, trying to have some sort of presence at all of his official visits. He makes an official visit to every lodge in the district, and it's very much the same hoopla that you get to hear like 7 times.
All right. So the what I want to do in this capacity is now let Robert talk about what are the different types of Blue Lodge official visits and how they're kind of operated. What's the point of them, and how do they operate in the jurisdiction that you're in?
Sure. So, as a past district deputy, I can freely tell everybody it's kind of a dog and pony show. Well, so
Yep.
there's different kinds of DDGM visits too. I'll give you an example of, say, like in some other jurisdictions, what might happen is a DDGM comes out to verify that you can do the work, and you actually have to like put on a degree, even if it's for an exemplar who's already got the degree, and you get graded on it and all of this kind of thing. Here in Illinois, that is not what an official visit is. In fact, we don't have anything like inspection. So for us, an official visit consists of unofficially a lodge opening in form on the first degree, moving to the second, and then moving to the third. Then the DDGM will excuse himself. If the worshipful master is super cool, he might say you can retire without ceremony, meaning that the DDGM won't have to go to the altar and do a do guard inside before leaving. Then, upon him leaving, he'll wait a second, he'll knock, and then you have to officially receive the district deputy grand master. So this is what I talk about the dog and pony show. So the lodge has to understand that they're in charge of introducing the district deputy grand master, and that goes a little something like this. I knock on the door, they come, they say, "Who is it?" Then the Tyler tells them something like, "The district deputy grand master desires admission." Then he reports to the master. The master then tells the wardens, he says, "Hey, you guys, get up and receive the district deputy grand master." Then those guys have some ceremony, and they come to the door, and they open it. We exchange pleasantries, even though I know everybody, like we're on first name basis. I know all their kids, whatever. But it's a dog and pony show. You got to show me that you know how to do this official pomp and circumstance stuff, right? So then we all go in a certain way, and then there's some verbiage. It's not secret, so I have no problem saying something along the lines of, "Worshipful Master, I have the honor of introducing Brother Robert H. Johnson, District Deputy Grand Master of the First Northeastern District of the Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons, of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of the state of Illinois." Like this super ridiculously long sentiment. And everybody messes it up. And if you don't, you're a god among men. And then you ascend to the dais and you say something like, "You guys all did a fantastic job opening up." No matter what, you say that. um, and then you basically say, "Hey, conduct your business meeting, and I'll save my comments for the end," because it's typical that the highest Grand Lodge officer in a meeting gets the last word, and the master won't say anything after that. It's etiquette. So that's typically what happens. Sometimes you sit in the east, and then like other times you just say, like I was really low key, so I'd be like, "Hey, is it cool if I just go sit with the bros?" But if he said if the worshipful master ever like kind of just motions and like says, "Hey, sit down," then I just sat in the east. That's fine, but I'm not gonna patronize everybody and be like, "Oh, the my favorite line, my favorite line is brother." Sorry. But so it's just that's kind of the experience from a district deputy's point of view. And then after retiring, I've sat through many district deputy meetings, and it's largely the same no matter where you go in the state of Illinois. That's kind of what it comes down to. And then the district deputy will allow you to close a lodge from the third degree. You don't have to go back down to 2, back to 1, and then close. So it's just 1, 2, 3 officially open, and then down to 1. But if you're a district deputy who visits your lodge frequently, maybe you know that they know the work. And so at that point, if they had an EA present or an FC present, I kind of broke some of the rules, unquote, unquote, quote unquote, which is I would tell them, "Hey, I know you know how to do this. So let's bring your EAs and your FCs into the meeting." And they're like, "Oh, really? But we've been practicing." And I'm like, "Okay, well, if you really want to do it, let's do it. And then I want you to dispense and go back down to whatever degree officially, if you want to make it a pain in the ass." Sorry. And then we'll have the meeting for the inner apprentices and fellow crafts. So that's how it is in Illinois. Sorry, long-winded, but I just had gave you some
Give the
PDGM
whole mechanics, just laid it all out there for us.
Yeah, that's everything, right? But nothing I just said I should also preface is secret or anything. It's just
Right.
the way we proceed with business.
Yeah, and so that's really, to summarize it, you went deep into the mechanics of it, but to bring it up to the so what is, it's not secret because it's really just a formal ceremony that most jurisdictions have in there as a way to honor and receive the highest officer, Grand Lodge officer of their area, into their lodge room and into an official meeting. And so it doesn't have all the spooky secrets and stuff that the Masons have in their ritual. It's just it is a formal, repeatable way that you can honor those who have maybe a higher title, even though we're all on the level. That's why there's so many of them, right, Jason? That's Jason's favorite line.
Yes, that's masonry.
Yeah, so it's just a way to give that. So that's here's the other side of the coin to that. It can get out of hand, right? It can be overkill. Masons love their titles. We've talked about this in the past, but there can be some really long nights doing official visits because of the ceremony you have to go through. Now, that's not to say you can't have a visit from a Grandmaster or a district deputy grandmaster just to show up. That's cool. They can be just another brother on the sidelines. But it's when they have the official visit when the pomp and circumstance turns on, and it becomes, something that in some jurisdictions is required when they have, say, the district deputy grandmaster show up, because it's slightly more than pomp and circumstance. Yes, that's 99% of it, but also there's a little bit of book work to do, where behind the scenes, either before the meeting or after the meeting, the district deputy grandmaster, he is supposed to be the grandmaster's eyes and ears at the local level. He has to make sure that the lodge, although it's mostly independent, is following the Grand Lodge rules as far as membership numbers, bookkeeping, accounting, following the ritual, how's the proficiency of all of its officers, etc., etc. So most of that, the brethren, except for the officers, don't see. It's all behind the scenes. But they do see the pomp and circumstance. Jason, you want Juan, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I was going to say, well, for someone who is just tuning in and they're not familiar with all these titles, even if you're a Mason, if you're an entered apprentice, you might be like, well, I've heard of them, and I know that you address them like as right worshipful, but like, what is the role? And you kind of mentioned it briefly there, that the district deputy grandmaster is the eyes and ears of the grandmaster, remotely. So whenever the grandmaster is not in the district deputy grandmaster is the person who is making sure that everything is in place, everything is held together adequately. And there is a lot of pomp and circumstance, like you mentioned, with the official visit, but I think you were very generous in saying 90% was pomp and circumstance, because I don't know about you, but like all the paperwork that has to be in
True.
order, for them to look at, that's a heavy burden, is it not?
Yeah, I think that's the thing I negated, was there is like a form that I send, or a DDGM will send the lodge, and they have to fill it out, and it's different in every jurisdiction, I would imagine. We also have an audit. We sit with the treasurer and the secretary and the committee, and it's a whole night worth of stuff. But if it's done properly, it's all behind the scenes, and nobody has to worry about it.
So let me tell you a little tale about how this most recent official visit went. So our lodge is actually very close to another lodge in the district, and so we actually had a joint communication, all approved by the district deputy grandmasters, to change our meeting places and times and meet together to receive the grandmaster of Masons of Virginia. So the head guy for the state of Virginia, made an official visit to our lodges. So what that entailed was a little bit of the the pomp and circumstance, but you can't just have a regular meeting when the Grand Master's there. Oh no, what Masonic event could be held without a meal beforehand, a large meal that's got sweets and desserts, and no green beans this time. I was kind of surprised, but they had a great meal beforehand, catered, brought in, and they actually had the Grandmaster cut the cake, which was a little weird. Like it was like a wedding, but I don't know. He enjoyed it. Cake was served, and then we all went upstairs to have our meeting. And as is customary in Virginia, the Grandmaster did not join the brethren during the opening. He stayed outside, to which he eventually knocked on the door outside and had a party come in with him. And then he came in, did his introductions, and then sat down because he was going to give his whole spiel later in the evening. So business got out of the way, and then it came to the Grandmaster's remarks. So this is really where he gets behind the podium and really gets to have the floor and say whatever he wants to talk about. So what is the Grandmaster of Masons in Virginia going to talk about basically 11 months into his tenure. He's about to. We have our grand annual communication next month, and so he's now reflecting on his year as Grand Master and all the trips that he's made and all of the the different events that he's been to and honors and stuff that he's received. One thing that was really cool that he did that I have seen done by other previous Grandmasters, you could tell when they're really on top of their game if they or someone who ghostwrites for them does a little bit of research about the lodge they're visiting. So it's not the typical form letter, dear, insert lodge name here, welcome, thank you for having me tonight. No, he actually talked about his visit up to this part of Virginia and how he grew up here and how he knew so-and-so, and he made it very personal. And to top it all off, we were actually in the old City Hall building, and so he, instead of him trying to read something that someone did of the history of Masonry in the City Hall, actually had a separate brother come up during his remarks and say, hey, tell us about the history of City Hall, and to which the brother did a great job. So I thought that was kind of cool that it wasn't the all about me, show, because there's all that pomp and circumstance. He then handed it off and let some other further light be spread. So it was a nice touch. Still a lot of pomp and circumstance. Still, I know I've said it so many times, but there's just a little bit too much that goes on. And then he proceeded to close the lodge because he. And the other benefit, because Virginia, we still have minutes. In case we haven't mentioned that before, we still must read the minutes by law, by Masonic law. We must read the minutes before we close lodge. Only one person in Masonry in Virginia has the authority to. What are you doing there, RJ? Giving the big thumbs down. Only one Mason in Virginia has the authority to waive the reading of the minutes, and that is the Grand Master. And to everyone's not so much surprise, but gratefulness, we all heard him waive the reading of the minutes, and the meeting closed much sooner. So
the Grand Master always does that, though.
If he's smart.
Like every official visit I have ever been to in Virginia, the Grand Master's like, I'll dispense with the reading of the minutes. That's fine. We're all like, why can't we just do that every meeting?
Okay, wait. Refresh my memory. You have to read the minutes at the opening from the previous meeting.
At the closing.
Of the meeting you're in.
We have to read the minutes at the closing of the meeting we just sat through.
Oh, so you don't read the minutes from the previous?
We can dispense with those.
Oh,
yeah.
So
okay, so yeah, you can. Oh.
So if this were like a lodge meeting, at the end, like the last 10 minutes of the Masonic Roundtable, we would say, okay, so the Brethren of the Masonic Roundtable met on October 24th, 2019, and we discussed this, and the presentation was on the official visits, and Brother Richards brought up this, Brother Juan brought up that, and then we closed the meeting at 10:30 p.m.
Bills were ordered, paid.
Right.
No petitions were read.
You were just there. You just saw it happen.
Joe Martinez did a super chat. That sort of thing.
So, you just saw it happen, and you have to sit there and listen to it.
Though, my question is, so once you do that, I've actually been in a chapter meeting in Virginia where that happened. So my question is then, are you allowed to? So you have to approve those minutes right there, and then you don't have to approve those minutes at the next meeting at all.
Right.
Correct.
Huh. That's very different.
So I guess, yeah. So I mean, I think what's crazy though is like, it's almost like it's still good, right? Because you don't have to worry about the interim minutes between two meetings.
So there's this thing called technology, and Any modern
Well,
company can just do
yeah.
other things with minutes and official documentation.
I get it. But like, so here in Illinois, I am allowed to do this. Write the minutes, and then we don't talk about the minutes at the meeting. I have them all typed up with the word draft at the top. They go out to the membership. Then at the next meeting, the master will say reading of the minutes, and somebody stands up and says, I'd like to make a motion that the minutes be accepted as electronically submitted. And then the master says, any discussion, no discussion, minutes accepted. And that's the only time. So like we almost never read the minutes. In fact, but there are some lodges who, as Chris Hodap once pointed out, if you don't read the minutes, what do you even do? Chris didn't say that. Somebody he said that. But well, I guess we're getting off topic. I was just blown away by the minutes again. For whatever
Yes.
reason.
But
Thanks, Juan.
the minutes were waived, so that's the important part. It's the highlight of the night. Now, it's not just limited to Blue Lodge either, right? Because I know some of you guys are like, members of other appendant bodies who also have official visits, right? Tell me about those. You don't have like district deputy, grand high priest official visits and all
We
that
do,
jazz?
but I've never been to one.
Oh, what a man! What a lucky guy you are.
Let me tell you, at least in the Royal Arch and Cryptic Council, it is loose as a goose, guys.
Oh,
It's usually like somebody just comes in and he's like, oh, and the district thrice potent, super cool purple coat is here. And then
oh no,
they're
no,
like,
no,
"Oh,
no,
cool."
no, not in Virginia.
That's
Every appendant
That's how we
body,
roll here. Yeah.
every appendant body has an official visit of some sort, and they're all the same. They all operate the same. So just expect that if you're traveling in Virginia and you happen to land on one of those nights. So, the question to Jason is, how should one prepare for an official visit?
So depends. If you are master, secretary, and/or treasurer, at least in Virginia, you will need to prepare by essentially putting together some documentation and filling out a almost like an audit type of sheet for the district deputy grand master. The Grand Lodge of Virginia essentially has a form that that we have to fill out with our with numbers of candidates and like financial information and things of that nature. And so the district deputy grand master will come and we'll review that with usually the master and the secretary for a couple minutes before the DDGM official visit. If you're just there participating in the official visit, there's not a lot that you have to do to prepare outside of perhaps coming early, because the DDGM official visits are usually very, very highly and heavily attended. So it's going to be the most brethren you might have in your lodge all year, at least in Virginia. So the most folks I have ever seen in Acacia Lodge was 72 in the lodge room at one time, and that was during my year, during the district deputy grand master's official visit, and it was also Prince Hall night. So we had worshipful brother James Morgan, I believe he's the grand historian of DC, or the associate grand historian of the Most Worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of DC. He came, and we had a huge crowd. So just be aware of that.
So go ahead, Juan.
The 3 days that I dressed down, that's how I found out that the district deputy grand master was there, because there were no spaces in the parking lot. And as I pull in, I'm like, oh, what's happening here? Can't find a place to park. People you've never seen in the lodge
Exactly.
looking at you strange, like, listen, I've been here every meeting this year. Who are you?
Hey, that was me.
What is this, Shrine Night?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Is it election
I
night?
mean, around here, like, that's something else that I did remember. And Jason, John, you could probably talk a lot about this. Maybe it's the same way in Florida, but in Illinois, it's not like tons of people show up to your DDGM visit. Like, nobody cares. The DDGM will go out to your lodge and expect your lodge members to be there. And that's about all. I mean, sometimes your DDGM gets there. I mean, I've been a DEO traveling with a DDGM, and we got to a lodge meeting, and the DDGM and I both had to sit to help open the lodge. I mean, that's wild to me, though, that like you guys get this super mega crowd. I can only
So
I can only think
meritocracy is attendance based.
yeah, I mean,
Oh, there you
how
go.
much of it is like I want to be there so that I can be seen by the high ups that I'm there?
There's a lot of noses that end up being brown by the end of the evening.
Yeah, I have a feeling like, about that.
Oh,
Interesting.
man. Called it for what it is.
I can tell you guys this as a past DDGM, I had best friends when I was a DDGM that I don't know what happened to them after I wasn't a DDGM.
They ghosted you?
Everybody loves your name when you're the DDGM. After that, not really so much.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So why do you guys get all the attendance? Like, what's the push? I mean, on the, like underhandedly, right? Like you might say, is a lot of brown nosing or whatever, but I know like if Mike were here, he would tell you how much it's a huge issue. Every lodge is supposed to go to every they call that inspection, and everybody's got to go and show up, and it's this big this huge mega meeting. Do you guys have that same, like, is it just precedence? What is that?
A lot of it's tradition. John, you might have a different opinion, but a lot of this is just lodges being like, oh yeah, well we always show up for the district deputy official visit, so we always follow the district deputy grandmaster around, and so a lot of it is just the perpetuation of you almost show as an officer or member, you show your commitment to masonry and to the district by your attendance and showing up at these with these official visits. I've never really understood the fascination with it. I understand why they have to happen, because the district deputy grandmaster needs to be in touch and actively involved in all of his subordinate lodges. But I've never quite understood the Hollywood value per se of official visits.
Yeah. Just to add to that, fraternal visits are a big thing in Virginia. So what is a fraternal visit? That you actually get credit, and it gets counted for certain Grand Lodge awards, where if 5 or more members of one lodge visit another lodge at the same time, and one of those 5 have to be a sitting officer. So yes, there were many fraternal visits recorded that night while the Grandmaster was in attendance, and so it was, hey, we're coming to support our district, and we're bringing all our buddies, and it's yeah, I mean, there's rubbing elbows part of it, which is expected, but then there's just the let me get credit for making a fraternal visit while I'm doing it, instead of just going to a lodge meeting for, dare I say, education. Right? That'd be a great way to do a fraternal visit, is to go to a lodge for an educational topic instead of a gold collar. But I digress.
I sense hurt in
Yes.
tone.
Well, here's the thing, John. what's the bigger value proposition on the part of Masonry writ large? Um, if you look at education versus um, a simple attendance at an official visit, um, for whatever reason that attendance is, there's something about, at least in Virginia, the allure of going to an official visit that just doesn't have that just I mean, Masonic educational programs just can't compete with that value proposition, whatever that happens to be.
So there you go. Step it up. That's fair.
What
That's
is
fair.
your that's what's interesting though is you mentioned this idea of value proposition, and we have such a problem with holistic value that we always put everything on this idea of a tangible thing, right? So we can't make good men better, so we just throw out titles and collars. So it's a tangible item. We have no actual value for going to the meeting, so we just feed you.
And that
That's the
might be value proposition enough for a bunch of Masons to show up.
I
Oh,
know,
sure.
and that's
Yeah.
what's crazy. Like, Scott Duvall, right? Scott had the Grandmaster come out to his lodge and sold tickets to the event because he did like this amazing barbecue. He is like a barbecue pit master for real, and like did big barbecue and the Grandmaster. So that was the value prop. Come out, shake hands, see the Grandmaster, check out the DC Krieger Jewel, and have some of the best burnt ends you ever had in your life. But the value prop is what it's all about. Why go? And we have to. But what's also key is understanding, having a mental attitude and understanding why you're going and being okay with why you're going. I don't think a lot of guys would be comfortable with asking themselves that question and then answering that question honestly.
Well, and so, the value proposition doesn't have to be, something necessarily, good or amazing about the experience either. It could be, it could be as simple as, well, we want to be the lodge that has the most number of brothers there for bragging rights, or we want to go because we don't want to be the lodge that's talked about for not having anybody at this particular official visit. Because I mean, things like that never happen ever. So it's just, the fact of the matter is we have limited time, especially when it comes to Masonry, with all of the appendant bodies and degrees and everything that we're involved in. There has to be some particular reason why brethren would go to an official visit over something like an educational program. And I'm not throwing judgment on that whatsoever. It's just a matter of, what's that draw, because you look at the data and official visits are packed houses and educational programs bring in, maybe a handful of guys.
Do you think that's something that if we become mindful of that and we actually shine a light on that, do you think that that's something that we can curb if we actually start, pointing out, oh, you know what, we had this educational meeting and we have these many brothers, or and then contrast that with how many people went to the official visit of the DGM or something like that?
Either way, I kind of mentioned this on the episode of the Masonic Factory, is whatever's working, like, keep doing it, right? If we're here trying to, like, prevent a 300-year-old fraternity from going into extinction, like, if that's what it has evolved into, then, if you get the members out because, the GM is visiting, then great, like, keep doing that and make sure the GM comes back and maybe doesn't do an official visit, but does another visit later in the year. So that's, the Gary Vaynerchuk would say, just because you have a view of what reality should be, you have to separate yourself from what you want it to be from what it actually is. And if the barbecue is what gets guys to show up, then the barbecue it is. And but if you want to change behaviors, then it's going to have to be, you know, a culture change effort that we've talked about in the past. So, you know, it's a balance, but also respect things for what they are too.
Yeah, I would add to this conversation and say that there's been some allusion to education and administration, and what I would tell people is there's no war going on between the two, uh, and there has to be balance in all things for this to work, and maybe that's an illusion also.
Yeah. So I'm
With
visualizing
eyeball.
like the the Last Skywalker, you know, with, you know, one person with the barbecue and reading of the minutes, and then the other side with, you know, lodge education and and
And
you
then
know.
there's the actual person standing off to the side showing the other person, you see, that person thinks they're in control, and that's okay.
Right. Bring balance to the force, because balance means you have to have both.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. All right. Any other thoughts about official visits? Why have them? Why do them? What are we doing? Benefits, value props. Kind of hit a lot of it tonight.
I have a question
So-
for you guys.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, Jason. You've been quiet.
So one more thought on official visits before Robert asks his question. Official visits do, I think, serve a really great purpose, and that is that for the brethren that don't travel very much, it's a way for them to interact with their Grand Lodge representatives and their Grand Line in the case of Grand Master official visits. So I do think that provides a real value to especially those brethren that perhaps just know their one lodge and just attend their one lodge. So if nothing else, it's a way for them to interact with the folks who are running the fraternity writ large in that jurisdiction. Back to you, Robert.
I think Juan has something also.
Robert, I saw
See,
your
now you're just
hesitation. I'm
stalling.
like, I got nothing. Pass it on. No, one thing that I was going to say, of course, we've been in masonry for many years, and we've experienced these, and we've seen some of the monotony that can come with it. Some of the you can appreciate it when you first see it, but then for some people, it may feel like, oh, this is it's a little burdensome, to carry so many details and the preoccupation with the books and making sure that people are calling people by their full title, because that's a mouthful. They say, Right Worshipful District Deputy Grand Master, blah 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 blah, and like people get really nervous to mess that up. But one thing that really stands out for me, usually the District Deputy Grand Master, he travels around with committee men for different committees of the Grand Lodge, and you'll have the committees for the zones or what have you. And usually they'll have a presentation on what their program they're supporting. And I do remember at least 2 visits where the committee man who stood up and spoke to the craft did an amazing job at his presentation, where he was actually a very good public speaker. He was able to capture the attention of the brothers who were in attendance and convey the urgency of the committee that he was manning. If I'm not mistaken, in one of those occasions, it was for the chip program, the um, I don't know what that stands
Child
for.
ID, child ID
That one,
program.
child ID. Yeah. I'm like, all of a sudden, like, I'm like, what does that even stand for? uh, so it's a program where they help parents. It doesn't have to be Masons. Any parents document things about their children and put it in a very compact, easy to store and deploy form in case that, God forbid, their children were lost. There would be a CD or a pen drive with the information, that with photographs of the child, measurements, identifying characteristics, different things like that. And it's a program that, of course, it's very important if, God forbid, it happens to any one of us. But the way in which that brother presented it really captured our attention. He was very passionate about it. And if all the visits included an element of that, where you actually convey an important message to the craft in an engaging way, that they're going to leave thinking, wow, I really want to be a part of that, or they feel like, oh, I really learned something with this visit, that I think that more people would appreciate it and not see it as um, as a tasking event.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I think we're at that point of the evening where we have to start wrapping things up. So let's go around, starting with, let's see, Robert, to share his final thoughts and shameless plugs.
Sure. Final thoughts are, we talked a little bit about minutes in this episode. One brother asked us to speak a little bit more about official visits that aren't DDGM visits. And so, in I think I speak for for most of us, that's really the only kind of official visit that there is outside of a Grand Master coming to visit, which is a rarity unless you maybe live in a state like Rhode Island or in DC, where the districts are smaller. Massachusetts, maybe. I'm not sure. Um, so that's generally my experience. Back to the minutes thing. One of my favorite things to do actually is going through Grand Lodge proceeding books. And once you kind of know what to look for in the format, you can get through a 600-page book in about 2 hours. The orations, the state of the fraternity kind of reports, what other states are doing. You can kind of parallel read and see what other states are doing. But one of the really cool things that's inside of those proceedings actually are DDGM reports from their districts. So, say 1870 proceedings from the Grand Lodge of Illinois, there are district reports that are about a page and a half, each reporting on the state of the lodges within their respective areas. And those are really kind of cool, not because of any like wild things that happen, but there's this underlying value which gives you insights into the context of society at the time. Um, you'll find things like, we didn't let anybody who had a physical maim about them come into the fraternity. Like, if you were missing a finger, it was a no. If you were missing a toe, it's a no. Um, those all just stem from ideas of it's why uh, uh, not Truman, the guy before Truman. I'm blanking out. Couldn't walk. Anyway, he didn't take
Roosevelt.
pictures from the waist down. Yes, thanks. He didn't take pictures from the waist down because in those days they actually equated that with retardation. So all these like memes or whatever, they just equated it with something ungodly or unclean or whatever, and so they wouldn't let you into the fraternity. And then you see after the Civil War, there's like these contextual things and clues that say, well, if you had your EA degree already and then you were maimed, now you can still progress in masonry. Just weird things. There's so much value in those books, and you learn so much about how we were. Um, Maybe not really practicing masonry at its best. But it's interesting. So don't discount all the minutes. They are cool to read. Just don't, bang them up on everybody else. Whence Came You, Sunday nights, 9:30 p.m. And that's it. Thanks for watching this episode. It was fun.
Very cool. Let's head over to Juan for final thoughts, shameless plugs, all the good stuff.
Well, one pro tip: if you feel like dressing down for lodge, your district deputy grandmaster is going to be there. So listen to your intuition and actually put a jacket and a tie. Second pro tip: find something worthwhile out of that visit if you can. There's always an opportunity for learning something, and if you get too hung up on the resistance to tradition, or you get too hung up on the fact that you have to go through all this pomp and circumstance, you may miss that opportunity to actually go home smarter than you came in. And that applies to all the meetings. I'm a firm believer that if you go with a good attitude to a meeting, you can bring something out. Now, it should not be that hard to come home feeling satisfied after going to a meeting, which is why we stress the importance of advocating for Masonic education. And don't be complacent. Reading a page from the digest is not enough. You can read that while you're in the commode. There's no reason for someone else to read things to you if you can do that yourself. Get some substantial Masonic education, delegate it to some of the brothers within your lodge, perhaps the ones that have a disposition for public speaking. Get them involved. Those who have a good hand at doing good research and writing papers, have them do that, and perhaps that's the paper that you read. But demand a little bit more excellence from your lodge, and be ready to participate and collaborate in making that excellence materialize. So I hope to see you brothers soon. I invite you to go to thewindingstairs.com. You can see some of my upcoming events and where I'm going to be speaking. I'm definitely enjoying traveling. I recently went to Hillsborough Lodge number 25 in Tampa, Florida, and the brothers there were very hospitable, and they were it really was a memorable experience, and I was very glad to be a part of it. So if you're interested in bringing me or any other brothers from the Masonic Roundtable over for a discussion in your lodge, we can make that happen, and it might not be as difficult as you may think. So just reach out to us, go to the Masonic Roundtable, go to thewindingstairs.com, and let's start a conversation, make it happen. Good night.
Awesome. Thank you. Over to Jason Richards.
All right. Yeah, so official visits, I think, are interesting things to experience, and I think there's honestly beneficial to go to them just because, if nothing else, if you aren't plugged into the Grand Lodge, it's a way for you to get more information about the Grand Master's programs and the Grand Master's emphasis for the year, because you get that even with the District Deputy Grand Master official visit, because oftentimes his program is really all about the Grand Master's emphasis in the Grand Master's program. So especially if you don't get around to a bunch of different lodges and you aren't very well plugged in with the Grand Lodge in your particular jurisdiction, I think it's a good thing to attend, just because you're going to get a lot of information that you wouldn't necessarily get otherwise. So thanks so much, everybody, for watching week after week. We really appreciate it, and looking forward to coming back to talk with you guys again next Thursday. Back to you, John.
Maybe. So we just realized right before the show that next Thursday is Halloween. So yeah, we'll see if we can work it, because I know many of us have little kids that like to go trick-or-treating. So what do you think? If you want us to do something before or after trick-or-treating, send us a comment on our YouTube, Facebook, whatever, or send us an email, theMasonicRoundtable@gmail.com, and we'll see what we can do. Otherwise, we do have a pretty cool show lined up next time, whether or not it's next week or the week after. But stay tuned for how to use social media for your lodge's benefit. So that'll be fun. A little spin on something we've done in the past on social media. We've spent a lot of time talking about as it reflects upon who you are and what you say in public. Now we're taking the twist of using it as a tool in your lodge's tool basket. So tonight, great topic on official visits, something we haven't covered in a while, and it's just this another little quirk about Masonry that spans many jurisdictions. And I learned tonight that they're really not a big deal in most other jurisdictions except for Virginia, where every appendant body has an official visit of some sort. And man, we just love the ceremony behind it. And while it can be overkill, it is a necessary evil. So, with that, I think it's time to say goodbye. And I want to thank all of you all for watching. See you next time, and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.